All right, welcome back to another episode of the Strictly Sports Podcast. Thank you guys for subscribing, for following us on social media. Please continue to do that. And again, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Pies by Ty. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram, as well as Empowered Creative. Check out their website at www.empoweredcreative.co. So we got a lot to get into today, our typical NFL talk for sure. And we're going to get into later the top 5 QBs as they are now, and what we think they should be. But before we do that, we're actually going to jump into a little festive holiday list, and we're going to go around and talk about our top 5 Thanksgiving foods. So there was no preface to if this was aside from turkey. I've seen a lot of lists that say like, oh, your top 5 sides. So I'm including turkey in my list, but Dan, why don't you go first?
Yeah, this is pretty easy. And actually, turkey is not on my list, surprisingly enough.
Not surprised.
So my top 5 foods would be specifically my wife's coleslaw or her grandmother's. I like stuffing. My newest addition that actually took out some things was sweet potato casserole. Love me some sweet potato casserole, lima beans, and mashed potatoes. Those are my 5.
Wow.
What the heck?
That is the worst possible list. Dan, we're fairies, man. We're fairies, and I'm ashamed of that list.
I've got a couple on there that I think.
Let me give my list, and then we will all rag on Dan's list.
You can rag on me. I can handle it, but
that's clearly lima beans and coleslaw. What the heck?
Yeah,
that's definitely question those two.
Those don't deserve any stomach space.
I would never waste, as Juddy likes the term Juddy, and I have adopted it, the stomach space terminology that Juddy likes to use. I would never ever waste any stomach space on those 2 things. Let me get through my 5, and then I cannot wait for all 3 of us just to jump on Dan for that list. Number 1 at the top of my list, I'm glad you had it there on yours, Dan. Stuffing. It is the star of the show for me. And I am, in general, I'll put this out there, as Juddy kind of alluded to, Thanksgiving for me is about the sides, not the turkey. The sides are the star of the show. The turkey is nice, and you have to have it, and it's the tradition and everything, but it is not it barely made my list. Number 2, and I know we didn't really specify on if we were putting desserts in there or not. I just put pie in general. Pie is having a good pumpkin, pecan, and a Dutch apple pie, specifically a Miss Smith's Dutch apple pie. Not to rag on Pies by Ty. I clearly want my pumpkin and my pecan to be Pies by Ty pies. And I am adamant about those
which
3
is phenomenal,
pies
by the way.
Right, it is. Those 3 things, the Pies by Ty pecan probably being my favorite, but I have to have those 3 pies at the least. Any other pies can be brought to the table, but like Jody said, the stomach space is at a premium, and I'm probably not going to waste it on any other pies, but I need those 3, and specifically those 3 brands of those 3. Number 3, I got green bean casserole. I love it. It just as I've gotten older, I appreciate it more. It just nudges out mashed potatoes, which is my number 4. Mashed potatoes and gravy, which gravy is another thing. I didn't put gravy on the list, but a good gravy is important for your turkey, your mashed potatoes, and if you want to do, like I like to do, like we like to do as we call them, mashers, not just mashed potatoes, but mashers and corn. You get a little gravy in there. Gravy is very important, although I didn't put it on the list specifically because I don't feel like it counts as anything. And then turkey, I just felt like I had to put turkey in there, but I'm okay with turkey not being in there, so I threw that in at number 5.
Cool.
Aggie?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Trav. Turkey got on my list, but it was number 5, and it's specifically I put turkey and gravy. Like I kind of had the assumption of gravy is not a standalone, but it has to go with certain things.
Yep.
So turkey and gravy is number 5 for me. Working my way up, number 4 would be sweet potato casserole. I am with Dan on that. I really love
baby, let's
go,
casserole.
Ag. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I like that.
I'll
It's a great side, sweet but savory too. It's just a great side. Working my way up from that, number 3 would be stuffing. I do love some stuffing, and I like gravy on my stuffing as well.
Ooh, nice.
So I don't know if that's different than you guys. If you guys like it just plain, but I do like to
delicious.
slather a little bit of gravy on my stuffing.
Helps it slide down the gullet. That's Michael's.
That's it, man. I love it. Yeah, that's what she said. So number 2, I did go with a pie. Also, I went specific to pecan pie. I do love pecan better. I did give an honorable mention to pumpkin pie just because pumpkin pie is such a big Thanksgiving thing. I do like pumpkin, but I do like pecan pie better. So that was number 2 for me. And my number 1 is mashed potatoes and gravy. I love mashers all the time, year round, but I mean, specifically, I love to load them up during the holidays. So mashed potatoes and gravy is my number 1.
Okay, that's pretty solid, pretty fairy-like list.
Very acceptable list.
Very carb heavy.
My list is pretty similar to all you guys. It's just kind of different orders. Number 5 for me is turkey. I like turkey a lot, just in general. Like I like to eat turkey outside of Thanksgiving, but I agree that there needs to be some gravy on it. And specifically for me, it's deep fried turkey. Dad's deep fried turkey is pretty much
Nice.
the only turkey that I'll eat. I'm not a big throw the turkey in the oven kind of guy. Number 4 for me is the cornbread, which is a little bit different for you guys, but I love a good, I can see your face, Trav. The problem that cornbread has is that for me, in order for it to be on my list, it's got to be a good moist cornbread. If it's dry, then I lose all interest.
We don't even have cornbread at our family Thanksgiving.
I know. So number 3.
How did that become your list? Your family Thanksgiving you don't even eat it. How is that on your list?
It could still be one of my top 5 favorite Thanksgiving meals. Thank you very much.
My list has now become not the worst one according.
Listen, number 3.
Cornbread.
Number 3
Betty's is on thin ice right now.
Number 3 is sweet potato casserole. As I said, I love a good sweet potato casserole.
Yeah, man.
It's just
You're missing out on that, Trav. I've come to notice that's not on your list.
It
No,
deserves,
I'm okay with that.
It deserves stomach space.
It
So
didn't
number
make
2,
my list, but I'm okay with it. If it's got a good topping on it, butter, flour, sugar, crumb topping, that's what makes it. I'm okay with that. That's definitely a list worthy item.
Yeah. So number 2 for me is mashed potatoes. I like to add a little bit of gravy. I just love mashers. I mean, we grew up on mashers every meal, so can't go wrong with that. And number 1 for me is actually what you guys mentioned earlier. For me, it's pies. It's the desserts. Like for me, it's pumpkin behind pecan, especially after being introduced to Pies by Ties pecan pie multiple times over the last holidays. That is the best dessert that I have to look forward to. And for me, I'm a sweets guy. Like everybody knows, I like sweets over anything. I'll eat the whole 3 or 4 pieces of pie, maybe 5 or 6 shots if I'm feeling a little spicy. But yeah. So I mean, pie takes the cake. So Dan, the only thing I take issue with you is I take issue with coleslaw. Lima beans, whatever. I get it. Some people
I
really
take
like
issue with lima beans too.
Lima beans,
not
both
a
in coleslaw.
Thanksgiving
Like,
meal.
how is that Thanksgiving, and how is that even any meal?
Coleslaw, I
worthy
think of like summertime fried chicken or a barbecue.
Yeah.
Like that's what I think of coleslaw.
I like an occasional coleslaw. It's good, and even if it's the greatest coleslaw in the world, which I'm sure your wife's recipe is, but it doesn't really matter how good it is. It's coleslaw, man. That doesn't make the Thanksgiving cut.
So here's the thing with coleslaw for me is like I didn't eat it for most of my life, actually. So it's like I'm making up for lost time now at like these different events because I didn't eat it. And then Laura made, actually, I think it was her grandmother when I first met her. She made it at one of her Thanksgivings, and I had just started eating it, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. So now it gets room on my plate, and I gotta tell you something. A little bit when that gravy kind of starts making its way over into the coleslaw juice, there's like a combination there, man. It's really good.
That sounds
I'm gonna
gross.
try it.
Sounds
I gotta say though, I will
That's
say
disgusting.
I take issue with both of them, but I take bigger issue with the lima beans because lima beans just suck in general.
I love lima beans. We have them at almost every family holiday, and they're probably like I would put them above corn as far as my enjoyment of vegetables.
Well, I'm surprised
They're
that
actually more of a starch than they are a vegetable.
I'm actually surprised corn wasn't on anybody's list for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know I'll get some blowback from my parents on this because the epic blow up I had when I was like 8 when we went to my aunt and uncle's house and there was no corn at Thanksgiving and I literally blew a gasket. Like as an 8-year-old kid,
Pilgrims
blew a gasket. There was no
corn.
corn at the Thanksgiving table, and I was like, the Pilgrims had corn. Like, what are we doing? This is a major disaster. And now, like as I've gotten older, I don't have the appreciation as much for it. But I will say, it has room on my plate for sure. It just didn't make my top 5. But it has to be on your Thanksgiving table, regardless of how great it is. It's a Thanksgiving staple to me, and that was kind of my bigger issue, even as a young kid. So
I think corn's kind of in the same category as gravy. Like it's just assumed.
It's just there.
You got mashed potatoes. You got to have.
I
corn
was gonna say I dip my. I kind of like to scrape a little bit of my corn into my mashers for every bite. I don't really.
Oh
eat
yeah, for
mashers
sure.
by themselves.
Gravy mashers corn combo.
Yeah, man. You must start making like a mashed potato bowl.
yeah, it's like a
Now
KFC
they're
mashed potato bowl.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
it is like a KFC bowl. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, moving on from our Thanksgiving lists, we're gonna jump into some general NFL talk here. But before we do, I want to do a quick shout out to New Covenant. Also, we in our men's team, we managed to win a tournament despite all odds. We were the 4 seed out of 5 in the tournament. We won 3 straight games, including the upset over the number 1 seed in the semifinals and the number 2 seed in the finals. And the whole way, I mean, we had a good roster. Trav, you can touch on it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say, I'll just be real quick. The best way I can describe it was improbable. It was a fun night to win it. We were not a very good team throughout the year. I would compare it to if whatever NFC East team gets in the playoffs, like at 6 wins, which is what it's going to be, if that team was to make a run and win the Super Bowl, that's what us winning that tournament was like. Because we were like one of the worst teams, if not the worst team, and we find a way to win the actual tournament.
So
So
that guy
real
right
fun night,
there.
real fun night, capped off by a great left center fielder making a diving catch to close it out. And yeah, man, a lot of fun. Glad to win.
Hats off to Tyler, as always, for putting the team together, and hopefully we'll win some more next year. But
Hey guys, congrats on your victory. Me and
Yeah, it
Nagy
was-
went
Yeah.
there, but
Thank you,
Well
Dan.
done.
congrats.
it was
Well
fun,
done, guys.
It was a lot of fun. But yeah, softball season's done. All of our recreational sports are done, so it's strictly professional sports now at this point. But Trav, why don't you start us off with some NFL talk from this week?
Yeah, I want to get into the last night's game, the Bucks Rams, and also a few other games, including the Chiefs Raiders. I know we were all really locked in on that one, and what an entertaining game that was. But first, I want to talk about a guy who's a bit of a lightning rod of a discussion for us, is Taysom Hill, and the decision by Sean Payton and the Saints to go with him as the starter, with Breeze out for whatever period of time he's going to be out for. Instead of Jameis Winston, they go with Taysom Hill. I got to say, for me, I was surprised. I didn't agree with it. I'm like, I know Jameis wasn't through 30 picks last year, but you bring him in. Why bring Jameis Winston in to me if you already had Taysom Hill and you knew what he was? Why bring Jameis Winston in if in the event that Breeze was going to go down, you were going to roll with Taysom Hill? So I'm not going to be super critical of it. Like, you still need depth at the position because maybe throughout the offseason you were like, well, we want to go with Taysom Hill, but we just don't know. So you bring in Jameis, and then you have him as an option for the future too. So you have two guys there that can be good backups. There's nothing wrong with having two guys there, I guess. I was surprised by it because I thought when they brought him in, the idea was like, we need some security back there. Drew's getting older. And then maybe we're even having a look at Jameis Winston for the future. But hearing more about it, it sounds like the decision was also based on the fact that when they signed Taysom Hill to a 2-year contract, gave him a little more money, a little bump off his rookie deal. And there was like a commitment where like, we're going to do everything we can that if Drew Brees goes down, that, to get you snaps at quarterback and do what we can to try and develop you and give you a real look at what your actual quarterbacking skills could be. And so maybe it was like they felt obligated to go with Taysom Hill, as opposed to maybe thinking even if Jameis Winston was the best option to win right now. But I have a hard time believing that because I just think Sean Payton knows how they're trying to win right now. Breeze, they're on the last year or two of Breeze's career. They're in the hunt, obviously, as one of the top NFC teams. I don't know if that was it or not. I was just surprised by it because I think Jameis Winston is a better option. As much as I love Taysom Hill and what he does, I think Jameis was a better option. And then for right now. And then when you take Taysom Hill out, he also, like, when he's the quarterback, he can't do the gadget stuff. So now you take him out of the tight end role. If you were to use Winston, you could have Winston being your quarterback, and you could still bring Taysom Hill for his package and then bring him in at tight end and do all the other things you do with him, which I think makes him better. Watching Taysom Hill play that game, I was very unimpressed. They won the game and everything, and it was, a pretty relatively easy win for them. It was, pretty close at half, and they kind of got enough of a lead there, and it wasn't super close. But watching him, I watched most of their offensive snaps. I just wasn't impressed. He dropped back, and it just looked like he held the ball for so long, and he just couldn't get rid of it. His numbers look okay. Threw for 233. He ran for a touch. But I just was unimpressed, thinking, like, I think Winston would be a little bit better for them in the passing game.
Could be, yeah. I had seen something where there was an interview with Sean Payton, and he had talked about who they would go with if Drew Brees went down, and he had said if it was mid-game, anytime mid-game, they lean towards Jameis. But if it was with a full week of preparation, he would lean towards Taysom. And that was earlier this year before this injury happened. So he has reasons for it, understanding that if they have a whole week to game plan with Taysom as the actual quarterback, that they could be successful. And they were. But, yeah, again, they were playing Atlanta, so that he didn't have to do too much. He was 18 of 23, like you said, 233. He did rush 10 times for 51 yards. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. So they still called his number quite a bit rushing. But like you said, yeah, it does take out the little trickery plays that come in and spark and just show a complete different look to the defense where it's more kind of straightforward. He's still going to play a straightforward quarterback where he'll just rush a little bit more as a quarterback versus what Drew Brees would do. But it was interesting, I thought. I think he did okay. He didn't have to do too much. So, and overall, their defense played really well. They held him to 9 points. So, he didn't really have to do a whole lot.
Yeah, I think that it came down to really just like this trust factor. Sean Payton puts the ball in Taysom Hill's hands pretty often when Drew Brees is there. So, at the end of the day, I think that if Sean Payton's looking at playing against the Falcons, he thinks to himself, the only way we lose this game is if we turn the ball over and like open up the door for them. And so I just think it's a trust thing that he trusts Taysom Hill. And I don't think we can pinpoint. I think that the trust thing is one part of many reasons why he probably started Taysom Hill. I don't think we can just narrow it down to one thing, but I think we've touched on a lot of the reasons why it makes sense I think on the other hand, for Jameis Winston, this has to be a little bit deflating for him. He's probably thinking he's going to get a chance to come out, maybe jumpstart his career back up, and he gets told before he even gets a chance that he's going to be, riding the pine again, and Taysom Hill's going to get the start.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing that you got to remember too, Trav. Like we watched it obviously, and he didn't play that well. I mean, he did some safe throws. A lot of their offense was very stagnant, especially in the first half before they kind of just started running the ball down their throats. But even though we've seen Taysom Hill in the league for so long, it is only his first real start, his first attempt. So he really still is a rookie as a starting quarterback.
True.
So there's some reason to believe that he could improve, especially having Sean Payton as his coach. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens as the weeks go on, and maybe they will have to turn to Jameis, if things don't get better and there's a game that they really feel like they need to win. But let's talk about that Bucs game from last night with the Rams. So how about Tom Brady's abysmal performance?
Yeah, it was as bad as he looked all year. I think probably even worse than the opening game there versus the Saints. It was a really entertaining game. We got two good primetime games, really three if you count the Thursday night game with Seattle and Arizona. I know Dan's Cardinals taking the L there, which you predicted, so I can't say you were surprised or anything or knock you there. But yeah, I got to give credit to the Rams defense. All right, first of all, the Rams defense needs to be discussed. They are playing really well. Their offense is taking some steps back in the last couple of years, but that defense this year is taking a couple of major steps forward and allowing them to really put themselves in the conversation. I know we've talked about the Rams being better than people think all year, but I think they're even taking another step here. But as far as Brady, it just continues to look like Arians wants to get the ball and force feed it down the field, and Brady's just, he never was that guy anyway. And as he's getting older, the arm strength, could be going away a little bit. And so it's definitely probably not what he wants to do now. It just seems a little forced. Like he started to really gain that chemistry with AB. They got, Antonio Brown out of the slot, and he's making a lot of progress with the short slot game with him. And then they try to go down the field and they either turn it over or they lose their rhythm. I mean, I know you got the two big guys that can get down the field and you want to get it to them, but I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it's just the O-line is a little leaky for the Bucs. I think Brady's gotten used to a lot better protection over all of his career and definitely in the last few years in New England with the protection. So I think there's a lot of things at play there. The continuity is an issue, but Brady looked terrible last night. We're going to get into our list, and certain guys not going to look so great with him being up there on the top five after last night's performance. Although I still think Brady is a borderline guy, whether you have him or not. And you look at his numbers, he's still really good. The only real issue for him as far as his year-long performance is the interceptions. The interceptions, we've talked about this before, they just keep going up and up. Two more bad ones last night, but the Bucs in general have to get their stuff together. They're at 7-4 now. Any chance of winning the division is starting to slip, and so they need to tighten it up so they make sure they stay at a decent seed for the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that, it's one of those things where it's like we talked about it, Trav, like for the Rams, they might be able to use these last 2 weeks, the win over Seattle and the win over the Bucs, as like a catalyst to kind of make a good run, even with Breeze being out, a possibility of the one seed for them if they can find their way through their division. I think they're either tied or have first place over the Seahawks because of head-to-head possibly.
Yeah, they'll have every opportunity. Their schedule's a little tougher than the Cardinals and the Seahawks. Yeah. The Seahawks is definitely the easiest, but look, if they can they got the Cardinals twice and they still got the Seattle and they've already beat Seattle once. If they can win all those, then they have every opportunity to win the division and maybe even get the one seed. I don't see it happening for them, but they will have the opportunity for sure.
Yeah, same. Hold on. I was going to finish that thought, but I was just going to say but with the Bucs, like it looked like last night watching a lot of that game that like their running game seemed to be doing pretty well. Like I don't understand like why in the moments when they get these like short yardage downs that they get away from the running game and they try to throw those deep throws like you said. Like I think that in order for them to be successful, Bruce Arians gonna probably have to bite the bullet a little bit and maybe transform that offense into a dink and dunk offense like they did in the Patriots, because they have the weapons. They have so many good receivers. Why force them to make these 20-yard passes when it's like your guys can get open for 5 or 7 yards and that can work you down the field, and you keep other offenses off the field and you already have a really good defense. So it's like the formula's there for them if they can do it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think that what the problem is, and what I've seen a lot of people say, is that it has to do with, like, and even Bruce Arians said this today. Tom's there's like rotations on the back end of the coverage that Tom is struggling with, which is kind of hard to hear thinking about Tom Brady. But I guess for me, Brady got compared to Joe Montana for a lot of his career just because of him being a California guy, but he truly has a game that is a lot like Joe Montana's, where he wants to get the ball out of his hand quickly and allow his receivers to 5-6 yards down the field and then do something with it. I don't think you're ever going to see Tom Brady, with the exception of the year when he had Randy Moss, and that was a different team altogether, where he's ever going to be that quarterback that just chucks it down the field a ton. So I just think this whole season will be from here on out. And I guess I'm basically saying I don't believe in my Bucs pick at this point for the division or for the Super Bowl, because I think I like Bruce Arians, but I think he is too stubborn to change. And I think Tom Brady's too stubborn to say he wants him to change, because Tom thinks he can do, he thinks he can do it. So if Tom Brady gets it, it won't be till next year. And I just think it's one of those things with no offseason. They're going to take the whole year here. They're going to figure it out. And maybe next year is the year where they really maybe truly make a run.
Yeah, that's definitely, it's definitely a possibility. I think the thing with Brady too that you look at is he's always struggled a bit when you've been able to get really good pressure on him. Ever since really he came back from when he tore his ACL, he's always been a little antsy with people around him in the pocket, like at least really down low. But when you get a good pass rush, like, you have someone like Aaron Donald, like they're able to get good pass rush, and that I think that plays a part in his accuracy and how well he plays too. On the other side, I think when you look at the Rams, like Trav said, their offense maybe has slipped a bit. Like I know Trav made the statement last night during the game. He was just like, Jared Goff is not an accurate passer. Like he just said it pretty much outright like that. So it is, and given that the defense better, is their defense enough that if their offense doesn't kind of come around more, when they start playing other offenses that might put up more points, like the Cardinals or the Seahawks or the Saints with a healthy Drew Brees, is their defense going to be enough, or does their offense have to get better to go deeper in the playoffs this year?
Yeah, I think they can. I think that, obviously there's room for them to improve. They still have a good offensive mind with Sean McVay. But before we move on to our top five quarterbacks, I did want to touch briefly on the Chiefs Raiders. That was a really good game, a game that I was, watching a lot of. And a good back and forth game as well. You had the moment where you thought maybe the Raiders could take that step and get that 2-possession lead, but they just could not seem to find it with Nelson Aguilar. But obviously Patrick Mahomes did what he does, and you'll see why he falls where he does on our QB rankings. But what did you guys think of that game?
Denny Green, man, all Philadelphia fans, when Aguilar dropped those 2 passes in the game, that essentially when you're playing against the Chiefs, you got to play a perfect game because they're that stinking good.
Yeah.
Denny Green right now is saying he is who we thought he was.
Let him off.
He'll make some catches when it doesn't matter, but when the game counts, when he dropped them 2 passes, I guarantee you, everyone in Philly remember the game last year against Atlanta when Wentz hit him in perfect and he doinked. So anyway, great game. Carr played amazing. He made some throws in that game. Like he's playing at a next level type of level of quarterback play right now. And I was very impressed with him. Mahomes did what he does. The Chiefs are a good team, and they did what they do. They come down at the end. If you give them any time left with a chance to win, I would put my money on Mahomes and the Chiefs every time.
Yeah, give the Chiefs the Raiders a lot of credit. Obviously, give the Chiefs credit; they won, but give the Raiders a lot of credit going in there and almost winning twice against the Chiefs in one year. They played the game plan that you have to play. I was telling you guys this all Sunday night. Limit Mahomes' possessions. They limited him to 4 in the first half and I think 5 in the second half. Almost about as good as you can do, really. Scoring points, but like you said, Dan, Aguilar, you have to make every opportunity. And the 2 balls he dropped at the end of each half cost them opportunities for more points and costing maybe Mahomes 1 more possession each time, which could have been the difference. But still, man, really impressed with the Raiders. Like their defense seems to it seems like it's coming around a little bit. I mean, I had no respect for their defense at the beginning of the year and throughout most of it, but it's like they're getting decent. I know this particular game didn't look great, but they did enough and they limited the possessions. I know that helped. But the last couple of weeks, it seems like they're not as bad. If they can get that to come around, their offense is good. I think their offense is really efficient, a really good offense. Maybe they will be for real and be a solid playoff team as opposed to just hoping to get in or just on the outskirts and missing it. So we'll see. I mean, look, they nearly pulled it off. I was just really impressed with them. Obviously, we know what the Chiefs are, and then they look like they look, and they look great. But I was pretty impressed with the Raiders.
Yeah, they looked good, and I think that they will find a way to get into the playoffs if they keep playing that kind of ball. And maybe they can upset some people because they're looking at probably not winning that division now after the Chiefs kind of pulled away now. I think they have a 3-game lead now, the Chiefs. So, but I think they will find a way to get in the playoffs, and we'll see what they can do. But we're going to move on now to our top 5 NFL quarterbacks. And Trav, I'm going to let you kind of just put down a little bit of like what the guidelines were and kind of what we were thinking here with our top 5 lists.
Yeah, this is not meant to be this year's best quarterbacks or a mid-season top 5. This is the top 5 quarterbacks, your top 5 quarterbacks that you take right now for this season or the rest of this season or one game, not necessarily based on just this year. I know personally, you can if you want. If you just are a guy who just looks at it and says, well, I want to just look at the latest performance of a guy, and that's who I'd take, in a game or the rest of the season to win games. It has nothing to do with you. You don't want to pick a young guy. You don't have to pick a young guy so that, it's not starting a franchise. It's not that. So there's no advantage to take a young guy or an old guy. It's basically based on performance as of right now. Me personally, I put a lot of stock in what have you done and what's your sustainability. Have you shown sustainability? Some people might not, but that's the idea of it, is who would you take for one game or one season?
All right. So Aggie, why don't you start us off?
All right, so yeah, in the number 1 spot for me, I think it was just a fairly obvious choice, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, the guy's just on another level. He does things that nobody else can do, and being a young guy, some people would say, he hasn't been around that long, but he's already won a Super Bowl. He's already made playoff runs, even when he didn't win a Super Bowl. So, I mean, he's phenomenal. So, number 2, I go Aaron Rodgers. He's had ups and downs in his career for sure, but he's had some spectacular years. And then this year coming back around, like he's playing really good ball right now. So I just think, where he's at, I'm putting him at number 2. Number 3, I'm going Russell Wilson. He's another guy who's just an outstanding quarterback. He does some really great things too. He really carries his team. He has a lot of pressure, I feel like, this year because their defense is struggling, and it's kind of showed a little bit. He's thrown more turnovers, had more picks and stuff this year than he typically does. But overall, I still think he's just a great quarterback, and I'm putting him at number 3. Number 4, I'm going Big Ben Roethlisberger. This is a guy who has just been the leader of that team for such a long time now, and he's been through lots of playoff pushes and lots of great seasons, and even just right now they're undefeated. And for me, it's not just his numbers and them winning all these games, but it's how he's playing and the way they're putting up the numbers and scoring points is typically him calling the shots. When they're doing the, standard play calls, their offense isn't as good, but when he's back there kind of commanding it from the shotgun, that's when they're having success this year. And I think he's my number 4. Number 5 was the hardest one for me. I was bouncing back and forth between Drew Brees and Tom Brady. Ultimately, and this list was made before last night, I landed on Tom Brady. I just think he's just been around so long and he's done it so many times in the big spot that I still feel like I'll take him in a big situation. Like, just because he's been there and he's done it so many times, I still have that trust factor in the big moment for him. Yeah, granted, he's not playing his best ball right now or this season even, but again, he is adjusting to a new system and everything, but I still put him in that number 5.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go through my list real quick, and really, as I evaluated my list at the end of it, just for the sake of time, I really just valued experience, somebody who's been there, done that, has experience. In every case, everybody on my list has won a Super Bowl. They've shown that they have the ability and the clutch to win big games, so my list is Pat Mahomes, number 1, Russell Wilson, number 2, Aaron Rodgers, number 3, Drew Brees, number 4. And again, I just want to touch on Drew Brees because some people might be like, well, he's out right now. Well, listen, this is if I had a QB to win one game, Drew Brees is my number 4 quarterback. And I'm just saying even, we expect him to come back and play. And then 5 is Big Ben. So that's my top 5. And I really just valued experience. People that have been there, done that, and people that, if a defense is coming against you, you're going to be able to know what's coming, be able to make the right play at the right moment.
Yeah, you'll see my list on the graphic. I got Pat Mahomes, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson at 4, and Big Ben at 5. It came down to 7 quarterbacks for 5 spots for me. I got 7 elite quarterbacks, the 5 I named, and then I got probably would have Drew Brees at 6 and Tom Brady at 7. I was actually a little bit surprised that everyone didn't unanimously have Russell Wilson at 2. With what he's doing, to me, it's no question that he's a better quarterback and does more with really for his team, more valuable, more with less some years than Aaron Rodgers. That was what surprised me most of all because, I think he's the clear-cut number 2 to me. After that, I think Rodgers is still a cut above as the clear-cut 3. But then it came down to 4 through 7. So For the longest time, I actually had Brady at 4 and Big Ben at 5 and then Breeze and Watson. And then I watched Watson do what he did on Sunday, and I was like, man, I already was thinking, like, should I throw Watson in there? And I was like, he's been doing this 3 years now. One of the reasons I don't have like a Kyler Murray or something like that, or even a Lamar Jackson is, and Lamar Jackson is a good example of why I don't have a guy like him on there, because I need to see sustainability. Lamar Jackson came on the scene, awesome year last year, right? MVP for 1 year, and now what? Already in his second year, he's taken legit steps back and show that he maybe doesn't have the sustainability. Yeah. So Kyler Murray needs to show me it for another year or two, like Deshaun Watson has, and then maybe a guy like him could get on my list. Because obviously, statistically, he's doing more right now than like a Ben Roethlisberger or even a Breeze or a Brady. So those are my 7 guys, basically the 5 I named plus Breeze and Brady. That's like what I consider the elite. I don't have 15 elite quarterbacks like people want to say. I got that like the elite of the elite. That's my 7. So last minute I went with Watson and just flip-flopped Watson from 7 to 4 and put Brady back because I just got more thinking about Brady currently and that he just doesn't look as good. And that even with, I think all time he's overrated. Not that he wasn't a top 5 his whole career, because obviously he was and clear-cut number 1 for a lot of those years. Mm-hmm. And so if you look at what Watson's doing, man, on a bad team, he's throwing touchdowns, he's throwing the yards, he's guiding the offense. They're putting up points with not a whole lot. With DeAndre Hopkins gone, I know they're 2 or 3 and whatever, but their offense is putting up points. He's putting up numbers and production and doing things and doing more with less than a lot of quarterbacks out there, and he's been doing it for 3 years now. Yeah. At the end of the day, he's not the passer that those other 3 guys are, but he's close enough, and he can do more with his legs. And I don't mean just running, able to run the read option or run for yards, but running around the pocket to make plays and buy time to make plays that Breeze, Brady, and Ben can still do some of that those guys can't do. That puts them over the top for me. Yeah. But I wouldn't have an issue. I don't have an issue with those 4 through 7 being anywhere on anybody's list, which is why I don't have a real issue with anybody's list. I was just a little surprised that you guys don't see Russell Wilson better than Aaron Rodgers, Aggie, and Juddy.
I just think, for me, and I'll go through my list real quick. I had Mahomes at 1, obviously. And for me, I did have Rodgers at 2. For me, it's that he, and I know you said this about Russell Wilson, but to me, in his career, nobody has done more with less than Aaron Rodgers on the back end. They haven't gone to a Super Bowl since the year they won in 2011.
But I don't think he's done that much with less. He had a lot when he won their Super Bowls, and then when they got less, he's not as good.
But I feel like he individually is still playing at an elite level. And to me, something that I noticed about all of our quarterbacks on here, and the reason, like you said, is sustainability and consistency. Every single quarterback that's on our list has continued to improve as their career has developed. You don't have guys that are up and down, like, oh, he has a good year, then he has a bad year, then he has 2 good years, then he has a bad, look at like Cam Newton, people like that who they have a good couple years and then they have a bad year, then they have a good year, and then it's like, 2 more bad years. Mm-hmm. So for me, I just feel like Aaron Rodgers, and he's getting up there in age, and I'd be interested to see, in 5 or 6 years what these lists would look like when, Rodgers could be gone, Big Ben's gone, Drew Brees is gone, Brady's gone. Who knows? I mean, heck, Russell Wilson could be gone in 5 or 6 years, depending on if they win any more Super Bowls and how late he wants to play. But I just think that was why I put Rodgers there, just because I think that he always, to me at least, I've watched a lot of their games too. I don't watch as many Seahawks games as I do Packers games probably. But I just feel like he works with kind of a hodgepodge group of people aside from Devontae Adams. And then I have Russell Wilson at 3. And for me, those guys are very interchangeable. If I'm making a team and I'm lining guys up with the same personnel, obviously I'm taking Mahomes. And then for me, it's like, pick your poison between Rodgers and Wilson. And then I put Big Ben at 4 and Breeze at 5. And like you said, I actually had the same 7 as you, Trav. I went back and forth. I had told Aggie earlier, I was like, yeah, I got the same list as you with Brady at 5. But then I was like, man, Breeze still has the mental game, even though people may think that he's regressed. But then when I saw your list, I was like, Deshaun Watson, I know he's my number 7, but I didn't even think to put him. But like you said, you probably watched more of him than I have. I really liked him at Clemson, but yeah, I think our lists, all 5 of our lists are pretty well done. We don't have any idiots on our list that don't put Ben in the top 10. Chris Sims, but I hope you're listening too. No, but yeah, I mean we all
probably not.
We all understand the game, and we understand that you gotta respect these guys that have been doing it for such a long time, and some of the older guys, especially who in these late parts of their career are able to be on these lists because we know what they can do and what they've continued to do this season.
Yeah, Trav, I just had a quick question for you. Just like when you were looking at this list, and this isn't an attack because I feel like Deshaun Watson could have been in my top 5 as well, but it's more like you said you valued sustainability, and so my question is, why was sustainability maybe a higher factor for you than experience was? So like in one game, if you had for instance, I think all of us have the same guys with the, you have like we have Breeze in there twice where you don't have Breeze. Like of those other guys, why did Watson kind of get the nod, even though he really hasn't done a whole lot in the playoffs, hasn't ever won a championship?
Like the big game moment.
Yeah,
Right,
like
because
the big game experience.
it's an equal kind of split. What are you doing for me right now? And what have you shown me that you can do? Okay, are you really good right now? But have you shown me that type of production for like a certain period? Which for me, it's like probably getting close to 3 seasons. I need to see like definitely at least 2 and going on a third. Watson's going on half a year as rookie year, and then I think 2 full seasons. I think he's going into basically his 4th year of showing us elite level play. So that's enough for me. I don't need to see – I'm not going to take it away from him that he hasn't been in the league 12, 15 years, 20 years like some of these guys are talking about. You know what I mean? I'm not going to take that away. But I'm not going to give a guy like Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray off a half a year or 1 good year, like, oh, well, I saw that and that was recent enough. And he was, Ben's never won an MVP. Lamar Jackson, he should be ahead of Ben. Like, no, there's no sustainability with 1 year. Watson's going on a 4th year. So that's enough for me. And even then I still was like, is it enough? It was just enough to push. And like I said, I'm splitting hairs putting him over. I had him at 7.
Yeah, I get that.
And I'm splitting hairs there. But to clear that up, it doesn't mean, oh, well, I'm only going to put a guy on my list if he's been in the league. Because Mahomes, we could all sit here if we're going to say about the continent, Mahomes hasn't even been around as long as Watson. But he's going on a 3rd year of unbelievable level of play. Mahomes would be the one guy that maybe I would put on my list after 1 year. I mean, if you throw 50 touchdowns your first year, then maybe, if it's that good as a pat, like Lamar Jackson, I mean, he did what he did last year in his first real year. And then we had the half a year before that. But he still didn't blow me away enough passing and show me that he was the type of quarterback that would be sustainable. Mahomes looked sustainable from the start. But even now seeing it, he's had enough in there. So it's not all about like, I'm not just going to value experience. It's a mixture of both. And I think right now, athletically, he can do so much more. And he's close enough as a passer to those guys to put him over the edge.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting is like Juddy, you were talking about what this is going to look like in a couple of years to come. And like, not that I want to project it too much, but I think that like Wilson and Mahomes will still be there. But I think you're going to see Rodgers, Breeze, Brady, those guys drop down. And I think what you're going to see is you're going to see like you're going to see Deshaun Watson come up. I think that you're going to see Kyler Murray come up. And so you're going to see this new type of quarterback begin to emerge that has the run pass threat. And the ones that can actually pass and run are going to be the ones that kind of like Mahomes doesn't do it a lot, but when he has to, he's mobile and can do some things. So I do think it is very interesting how this list may shift moving forward.
Yeah. And, like you said, long gone, I believe we can all agree that long gone are the days of the stand in the pocket all day and pass and not scramble.
I don't think those days are long gone.
You don't think so? Well, perhaps that'll be a conversation for another day.
Perhaps.
Another conversation for another day is that I really hope that Deshaun Watson is not on a sinking ship and he gets a chance to gain that experience in the playoffs. Because there's some things going on in Houston. But we're going to do our game picks this week. We're going to actually pick all 3 games for Thanksgiving Day. We got to make this kind of quick, but let's start off. Trav, we have the Texans, Lions, and that's the 12:30 game.
Hey, I mean, you know who I'm going to pick now. I just was tooting the guy's horn all day. I'll take because of and only because of Deshaun Watson. Give me the Texans in I'll say in a 30-23 game.
Yeah, give me Texans over Lions, and I'm not going to predict a score because it could be 10-3 or it could be 45-41. Like that's just the way these two teams play.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to say the Texans as well. I'm going to go 27-20.
Yep, and I think this was the only game that we had a clean sweep, and I will take the Texans as well. I think that they win by a couple possessions just because Lions are kind of a dumpster fire. So the second game is the 4:30 game. We got the Cowboys and the Washington football team. Trav, who you got?
Cowboys look good enough for me against a up-and-coming kind of Vikings team. So I give the Cowboys some credit. I think they're on the ups now. They got Dalton back. But the Washington's not as terrible, I guess, as I thought they would be. But I'll take the Cowboys in that one.
Yeah, I'm going Cowboys, and the Cowboys are going to go on a run here, and they are going to prove to Aggie that they have one of the most talented rosters that have underachieved this year. So give me the Cowboys in maybe like a 30-20 game.
All right, Aggie.
Okay, wow. Well, the fact that you think that we're going to put up 30 against Washington's defense, okay, that's okay. Well, I'm going to say we're going to eke out a win here, but I'm going to say it's going to be 16-13. We're going to win on a field goal.
All right.
Yeah, when we're all finished with our turkey, we're going to sleep during this game.
No, during this game, we'll be Marco Poloing because Aggie will be freaking out about how the Cowboys can't put points up on Washington. Because what's going to happen is Washington and Alex Smith, who's probably going to win the Comeback Player of the Year just because he's alive and playing. I mean, honestly, it's the truth. Good
You're
story,
not
great
bitter.
story, great story. But I just think that people that are leading their team to 11-0,
It's
after
a
losing the
travesty
whole
if
year.
Ben Roethlisberger doesn't win comeback.
It really
But
is.
You're right,
But,
but you're right.
But yeah, so I just think they're playing good ball. I think that they actually might be a surprise team that watch out, Eagles and Cowboys. They might steal that division with 6 wins from you guys or 7. So I got the Washington football team, the WFT. Over
They don't
the
have to steal
Cowboys.
anything from us. We'll just give it away because we
Yeah, yeah. And so our last game is obviously the marquee matchup that everybody wants to see: the Ravens Steelers
Here
at
we
8:20.
go.
If the game happens, right now there's some COVID concerns with the Ravens roster, but as
Strictly
of now,
sports.
the NFL has not canceled that game yet. So let's who do you got, Trav, for the Ravens Steelers?
Yeah, you gotta love it when your team plays on Thanksgiving. If it doesn't get canceled, I actually was so close to picking the Ravens when we had to put these picks in. I'm glad I didn't. Last minute I was just thinking on Thursday night at home on primetime lights, Color Rush unis.
Color Rush
Mike
unis.
Tomlin will have this team ready to go. Ravens, whoever he usually always does on a short week. And in primetime in general, Tomlin's record in primetime. But I'm just like, the Ravens are the more urgent team. They need it more. I think they're going to win it. As bad as Pittsburgh's offense looked, and Ravens defense usually always is solid, I think the Ravens are going to take it. But then I'm thinking about it more of just like seeing what the Steelers do on primetime, especially on a short week, divisional opponent. They're always ready to go. They'll have something up their sleeve to get the offense going early enough and not fall into a hole like they did last time. Because if they do, they'll lose if it plays out like it did last time. But then seeing all the COVID stuff happen to the Ravens, I'm even more confident that the Steelers get it done.
Nice 10
Yeah,
second take there. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Anyway, I got the Steelers handily taking this game. Baltimore is about to implode if they're not already imploding, and COVID's not going to help. So give me the Steelers.
So I want to state for the record before I get into this that these picks were submitted before the COVID stuff happened, and there's now going to be no Ingram and there's going to be no Dobbins for the Ravens, so they're not going to win. But my official pick is the Ravens, but that's not going to happen. So
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, anything can happen. I like the Steelers.
Aggie,
as
let me
well.
just ask you: if they do win, are you going to take credit that you picked them?
absolutely.
As you should.
There will be evidence.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But
We'll
that
edit
pretty much
that
does
out.
it for that does it for our show. That's all we
Wait,
got.
Juddy,
for you
what's your
guys
pick?
today.
Did you give your pick?
Yeah, I said Steelers as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
you didn't give any take, so I figured.
No, I allotted my time to Trav's take, so we're good. He did the resident Steeler fan rant for us, so I let him do it. But that's all we got for you guys today. Thanks for tuning in again. Be on the lookout for our graphics to pop up on Facebook and Instagram as well. And hope you guys have a good Thanksgiving. And yep, enjoy some football. Bye, guys.